Most people think that buying a condo or a townhouse is pretty straightforward, right? You find a place that checks most of the boxes, you make an offer, you lock in your mortgage, and then boom, you are a homeowner. But here's the truth that rarely gets talked about, especially here in BC. You are not just buying a home, you are buying into a corporation. A strata corporation, a corporation with its own rules, its own financial health, and its own set of problems, some of which you might not see until it's too late. And that's where buyers get blindsided. They'll fall in love with, the quartz countertops or the location that's so close to the SkyTrain, and then they move too quickly. But after the keys are handed over, well, that's when the real issues, they start to show up. You've got special levies, bylaws that they didn't read, buildings with major repair work that is looming. I've seen all of this far too many times. Glen Hopkins here. I am a local realtor here in the Surrey White Rock area, and I've helped a lot of people buy into strata properties the smart way. And I've also seen what happens when people rush in without asking the right questions. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 crucial things that you need to know before you buy a condo or a townhouse in Surrey, British Columbia, or anywhere in BC for that matter. We're going to cover what to look out for in the strata documentation, how to decode those strata fees, the kind of insurance problems that could cost you literally tens of thousands of dollars, and a few myths about new construction that might just surprise you. And be sure to stick around to the end because there is one mistake that almost every buyer makes, even the ones who think that they've done all of their homework, and it's nothing to do with the unit itself. And it has everything to do with the person that you've hired to help you buy it. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 1 is not all strata corporations are created equal. So again, before you even think about writing an offer, there's one thing that you've got to get clear on. Every strata corporation is different. Some are very well managed with strong leadership, proper budgeting and long-term planning. But others, well, let's just say they're just doing enough to keep the lights on. And the scary part is that on the surface, it's hard to tell which one is which. A building can look clean and modern, but behind the scenes, the council might be deferring maintenance or, fighting constant owner disputes or even running a dangerously low contingency reserve fund. And that is when special levies come out of nowhere. Or even worse, buildings that can't even get properly insured because of mismanagement. So how do you know what you are walking into? Well, first of all, you want to start by reviewing at least 2 years of council minute meetings. And you want to make sure that you look very closely at the Form B. Also, read the depreciation report. These are not just documents. They tell you the story of how the building is being run. And if you see recurring issues, things like water ingress or discussions about envelopes or maybe complaints that never get resolved, that is an early warning system for you, all right? Now, I get it. This sounds like a real headache to read through all of that, but I don't want you to worry because we're going to talk more about who should be helping you to interpret all of this just a little bit later. But first, let's talk about number 2, which is the strata documents being absolutely everything. Because once you've figured out whether that building itself is stable, the next step is digging into the documents that tell you the real story behind the walls. Now, most people, they glance at the strata docs, maybe flip through the bylaws, and then they move on. But that is a huge, huge mistake. The Form B alone, the Form B, the bylaws, the council minutes, the depreciation report, this stuff, it shows you exactly what is going on and what might be around the corner just waiting for you. So make sure that you look out for things like a low contingency reserve fund, signs of major repairs being ignored or maybe postponed. Talk about upcoming special levies, lawsuits, or noise complaints that just don't seem to go away. Okay, and here's the thing. it's not just about the unit that you are buying. It's about the building that you're buying into. And so the best condo in the worst run strata, well, it's still going to be a bad deal. And as you start going through all of those docs, you're probably going to notice something that always sparks questions. And that is the strata fees, all right? Now, strata fees are one of those things that buyers focus on, often for the wrong reasons. So you might see two similar units. One has fees of, say, $280, then the other one has fees of $450. And the instinct is to think, well, the lower one saves me money every month. But you want to hang on there because you need to ask what is included. So if those $450 fees cover heat, water, gas, insurance, garbage, a healthy contribution to your contingency fund, well, you are actually in better shape. Meanwhile, that condo unit with the lower monthly strata fees, well, it could end up costing you more if you end up paying, say, for example, your city utility bills completely separately. Plus, you might have more out-of-pocket expenses when repairs come up, or maybe the building didn't budget properly. You see, some stratas, they intentionally keep their fees low just to look good on paper, while quietly they're deferring their major maintenance, and that will catch up with you. All right, now before we jump into the next point, just a quick heads up. If this feels like a lot to you, please don't worry, it's completely normal. This stuff is not common knowledge, and most buyers, they don't know what to look for until it's too late. So if you would like some help, if you'd like me to answer some questions for you, feel free to book a call. There's a link in the description box below, and we can have that chat. Also, while you're down there, please go ahead, hit that like button if you're getting some value from this, and consider subscribing to the channel. That way you're not going to miss out on any of my upcoming videos. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which is insurance gaps and deductibles, which can totally wreck you. Now, this is one of the biggest gotchas in today's market. You see, people, they assume that the building is insured, so they're covered, right? But more and more, we are seeing strata insurance policies with massive deductibles, especially for water damage. And I've seen some buildings with deductibles as high as $250,000. $250,000. And what that means is that if there is a leak in your unit and it damages one of the units below, you could be on the hook for a six-figure repair before the insurance even kicks in. So always ask to see the building's insurance summary, and you want to make sure that it is valid. It needs to be updated every year and that it covers full replacement cost of the entire structure, and that water damage, the water damage deductible isn't so high that your own insurance provider would refuse to cover the gap. And here's the real kicker, by the way. Not all insurance brokers will even write policies on some of the buildings out there anymore. Now, while insurance is something that most people don't seem to think much about, here's one that they often assume is going to be fine, and that is rental and pet rules. So yes, BC has removed a lot of the age and rental restrictions, but not everything changed overnight. And some buildings still have grandfathered bylaws, and some limit the number of rental units, and some require strata approval before you can rent. And then there's pet restrictions. These are still very common, okay? So, you might find buildings that only allow for cats or dogs under, say, 30 pounds, or no pets at all until the bylaws have officially been amended. So please do not assume that you can rent it out to anyone or, move in with your golden retriever or your pit bull terrier, right? Just because the listing didn't say otherwise, it doesn't mean you can do it. So always double check the current bylaws. Now, speaking of assumptions, parking and storage are another area where buyers get caught completely off guard, because if a listing says one parking, one locker, it doesn't mean that you actually own them. You see, in a strata, those spots, they might be a number of things. They could be assigned by the council and therefore changed as well. Or they could be limited common property, which means it's shared use. or they could be actually owned, which is what you want, right? So if it's not shown in the Form B or on the title, well, you don't technically own it. And trust me, you don't want to find this out after you move in. You don't want to find out that your parking stall that you thought you owned actually belongs to someone else. And finally, let's talk a little bit about new construction, because this is where buyers often let their guard completely down. Now, you'd think that a brand new unit is going to be safer. Everything is shiny, you've got your warranty coverage. What could go wrong, right? Well, let me tell you, plenty can go wrong, plenty. New builds, they often come with delays. They'll often come with incomplete common areas, missing appliances, and believe it or not, warranty loopholes. So just because you have a 10-year warranty, it doesn't mean that everything is covered or that the builder will move quickly to resolve issues. So you've got to read that disclosure statement very carefully and ask yourself, what is finished, what is outstanding, and what is still up in the air? Because I've seen buyers move into a condo only to wait months for the elevator to be operational, right? Or the landscaping to finally be finished. And the worst part? Well, most people never see it coming. Most buyers spend more of their time researching nearby restaurants, for example, rather than doing the reading through all of the Strata minutes before they buy. But even if you do all of this right, you read through all of the Strata documentations, you ask the right questions, you get your insurance lined up, well, none of it really matters if your real estate agent isn't doing their job. And that is what we're going to cover in the next video. We're going to talk about how to tell if your agent actually knows what they're doing when it comes to stratified properties, or if they're just unlocking doors and hoping for the best. If you have any questions or you want to chat more about this, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.